I wouldn't say I suffer from it, but I have social anxiety, and it's something I think I've had since I was very young. I noticed that I get very anxious and very nervous, like overly anxious and nervous when I'm in large crowds, in public, and sometimes when there's loud music also. I got really nervous when I was younger, but I would say that right now my social anxiety is at quite a steady level. And yeah, I think I've been able to manage it well by myself. I kind of like handled it by myself all my life, practically, up until recently where I've been starting to see a counselor, a school counselor. So I guess how I would handle my struggles, whenever I felt like the anxiety, nausea coming up, I would just kind of stand in the toilet by myself, telling myself to just calm down and that, everything's gonna be fine, or like maybe if I was 12 at the time, I'll tell myself like, come on, you're 12 years old, you can't do this, you're like an adult already. These kind of things are to try to get myself to calm down and just get out of that anxiety mode. There's also a point of time where I use, like on Spotify, they have these whale sounds. Very calming. I highly recommend it. I actually went for counseling recently. I think like this year, I just went to receive counseling. But I didn't, like most of the help I received was really just through myself, and it was just me trying to self-manage my own anxiety because I guess my family didn't acknowledge that I had a mental illness or that there was anything wrong with me mentally. And because of that, it was hard to go and seek help because a lot of people didn't really believe that I had one. So yeah, a lot of when I tried to tell my parents that I feel that I have some form of anxiety, they were just saying that, thank God that you have your eyes, your nose, that you're born like a beautiful child, that you have all your limbs. So just thank God that you're okay physically. But they didn't really think. I mean, it's not that they think that mental illness doesn't exist, but they just think that, I don't have it. I used to not do that until I guess I realized that me having a mental illness isn't something that I should be ashamed of, and it's just as common as someone having the flu or having a fever. Like if someone is so unafraid to just tell other people that they have a fever and that they're sick, so why should I be afraid to admit that I have a mental illness? And I think especially because I have quite a few friends who have mental illnesses of their own, I realized that I was stigmatizing them and stigmatizing myself if I was not vulnerable with what I had and if I didn't share to people that I had this mental illness. But I don't really go actively tell people. Like if they ask, I don't mind to share at all. Although I still do feel a bit uncomfortable. But yeah, definitely, I'm really open to being asked these kind of questions. Like, so there was one experience that I had with my family because these days I've been pretty adamant about speaking up about my mental health. So I told my parents at the dinner table. We were at this fancy Italian restaurant. So we were eating and then we were having dessert. And then somehow the topic of mental health got brought up. And then I was saying something along the lines of, that I want to go seek proper help for it, for my anxiety. Because I feel like it was interfering with my life a lot. Throwing up is not fun. So I tried to convey that to them, but somehow they laughed at me. And then my dad was saying something like, people with mental health problems, they just want someone to talk to. So why do they need to pay for all this psychology and whatever? And that, if I need anyone to talk to, I can just talk to my dad and he'll just shut up and listen. In retrospect, it doesn't sound like a bad comment. Like it sounds like he's being supportive, right? But he said it in a very mocking way, and that they were just laughing at the table while I was trying to be serious about it. And I guess that really hurt me because it was coming from someone that I really cherish, and I love my parents a lot, and I'm sure they love me a lot too. But to hear this kind of lack of support from them about something that I've been quite open about for a majority of my life, it is pretty hurtful, hearing it from people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. Yes, just the feeling that I want to be like everyone else, which I don't know if that's stigmatizing, like self-stigmatizing, that, people with mental illnesses are not normal, but it's definitely not that. But I think it's because, my symptoms are that I do throw up when I get like my anxiety attacks. I really want to stop doing that because I think it's like, personally, I don't enjoy it, of course, who does? And yeah, I think it's also not a very healthy thing to do. So I think just with my best interest in mind, with my health and also my quality of life, that I decided, that I should get my anxiety sorted out, because it really impacted the way I hang out with my friends. And it gave me a sort of phobia of eating with other people because I was so afraid that I would get that anxiety again and that I would end up throwing up, and God forbid I throw up in front of my friends. I don't want them to have to experience that. But yeah, I also wanted to try to enjoy my life a little bit more than I have been so far. So yeah, that really motivated me to want to get better. Myself. I mean, okay, I do tell my friends. My friends do know about it, but I wouldn't say they really supported me. Nothing like extraordinary. But I don't blame them, because it's hard to fathom something you don't have. It's hard to imagine what it's like for people with mental illnesses. So I totally understand that they are not as supportive as I would like them to be, or they're not as supportive as they can be. And I totally don't blame them. I just feel that as long as they understand and they acknowledge that this is something that I have and that they don't treat me any different, that's enough support for me. But I think definitely the people who have mental illnesses, one of my friends is also struggling with her mental health. I think when I actually talked to her about my mental illness for the very first time, that I was more relieved than I expected, because she could really understand from my perspective. And when she opened up about her own mental illness, it was then that I realized that, I'm not alone. And that's one big problem that I had this entire journey with my mental health, was that I felt extremely, extremely alone. I dealt with all my anxiety attacks by myself, and I've also managed it by myself. So this entire journey has been a very lonely one, although now that I'm seeing a counselor, it does give a bit of, releases a bit of weight off my shoulders. But yeah, my parents, they try. I think they try in their own ways. But yeah, I guess my sister also, sometimes. But it's something we don't really talk about in my family, so I would say I mainly supported myself. I think people with mental illnesses, we also need to learn how to embrace vulnerability and embrace, just being who you are and not being ashamed of what you have. By sharing our stories and sharing our mental health journeys, we can help to spread this awareness and really teach people what it means to be empathetic towards others. And also there's a great benefit in that, people who are struggling silently by themselves, who are feeling extremely alone, when they hear these stories that other people share about their mental health journey, it'll, give them great relief, just as it did for me. And it'll teach them that they're not alone in this world. And there are others who can definitely relate to them, and that mental illness and mental health doesn't need to be a lonely battle. You don't have to struggle alone by yourself. You can definitely just reach out your hand and there's someone that can help you. There is always a light at the end of the tunnel, even if you don't see it right now. You see it eventually. This is my story. What's yours?